Retired General Jack Keane, a Fox News contributor, offered this about Trump's negotiating strategy with the Iranians, both in terms of his faith in Trump as well as the ace in the hole that Trump has. Take a listen.
I know this. President Trump is not going to make a bad deal. He knows these guys. He's negotiated with them more than any previous president has. And he knows they're full of BS at times. They're going to obfuscate. They're going to promote lies. And our team obviously has to be aware of all of that going into it. I'm assuming that they understand that. The backstop we have here is the president himself. Yeah. He's not going to take a bad deal. If we return to combat operations, so our audience understands, we do have an ace in the hole here, so to speak. Mm-hmm. We do have a strategic asset that we can put to employ here, and that is Carg Island. Carg Island, we can wait to the very end of our operations and take control of it.
Or destroy it, is what he said to close out. Interesting riff from a American debunk. Imagine Trump never having threatened to blow Iran off the map and the world spending 48 hours ruminating about it. A ceasefire would have seemed mediocre. Not anymore. Feels like Trump stopped World War III. He's even got feckless Western European leaders like Keir Starmer trying to take credit for it. We achieved the ceasefire, Keir Starmer. Yeah. Feels like, going back to American debunk, it feels like Trump stopped World War III. He put the image in everyone's head that Iran was going to get sent back to the Stone Age. That didn't happen, so a ceasefire and more negotiations seemed like a big win. Something else. Another move that nobody is talking about. Each time Trump extended a deadline, and he extended 4 of them, he wasn't just buying time, he was letting the architecture get bigger. Deadline 1, U.S.-Iran bilateral. Reopen the strait or face strikes. Deadline 2, Pakistan enters the channel. The conversation is no longer 2 parties, it's 3. Deadline 3, Pakistan hosts Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey in Islamabad. Now it's a regional table. Deadline 4, the Islamabad Accord Framework, a named document with regional backing in 2 phases. By the time Tuesday night arrived, Trump hadn't just been negotiating with Iran, he'd been building a coalition of every major regional stakeholder around a shared interest in the outcome. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have wanted Iran contained for decades. Egypt and Turkey wanted regional stability and a seat at the table. Pakistan wanted the credibility of brokering a historic deal. And when he announced the ceasefire, it's worth noting, he did so, quote, on behalf of the United States of America as president and also representing the countries of the Middle East. In other words, he's not brokering a U.S.-Iran deal anymore. What he's doing is positioning himself as the representative of a regional coalition, all behind the framework that's now being finalized. The permanent deal, when it comes, won't be Trump versus Iran. It'll be Iran versus a bloc that includes every major power in the region, with Trump holding the pen. Let's get reaction to that and discussion of other related topics. Eugene Kontorovich joins us. He is professor of law at George Mason University's Scalia Law School, senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Professor Kontorovich, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good to be here.
What do you think about that analysis, both of the sort of end of civilization gambit, as well as this regional framework that Trump has been, according to that argument, methodically building over the last several weeks?
So I think the massive threats definitely helped bring Iran to the negotiating table. Iran definitely wanted to stop the end of civilization from happening. I'm less convinced that they've actually come to the negotiating table with anything serious. They may be stalling for time, which is okay because Trump may also be stalling for time. I don't see this ceasefire as an end of the war in any way, but really just as what it is, a ceasefire. And it's likely that hostilities will continue if not in 2 weeks precisely, a bit down the road. There's still a lot of runway on Trump's presidency. And I don't think he's going to let these guys survive, given that they've tried to kill him before.
And the regional coalition that started with the Abraham Accords and fast forwards to the present, with certainly the UAE being perhaps the most publicly outspoken against the Iranians, against control of the Strait of Hormuz, against their attacks on civilian targets in not just the UAE but in other Gulf states as well.
Yeah, this has really cemented what was already, I think, an extremely strong alliance between Israel and has, I think, brought into the open the fact that most Gulf states are closer to Israel than Iran. It's truly, weirdly, Israel has the respect and friendship of the Arab states more and more, and Iran's best allies are in Western Europe.
And so,
Spain just sent their ambassador back to Iran. Spain is the head of Arab Muslim state in cozying up to Iran.
And so, what do you anticipate, or what is sort of realistic to hope comes out of this weekend's negotiations, regardless of the technical status of the ceasefire?
I think any arrangement that would leave Iran as the running a toll booth on the Strait of Hormuz would be very terrible, and I can't imagine President Trump would countenance that. It violates basic international law, is going to make prices higher around the world. So I think the result is going to be indeterminate, and is they're kicking the can down the road, and we'll see fighting flare up again. We saw many such ceasefires brokered some by President Biden, some by President Trump in Israel's war with Hamas, which is the Iranian client in Gaza. And these ceasefires basically let both sides reposition themselves, store up their forces. And the question is, who's going to do a better job at that? I think America's obviously going to do a much better job at that. The Iranians are really just licking their wounds.
Do you agree with General Keane that Trump's ace in the hole is Karg Island, whether to occupy or destroy, and that decision can be put off for now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, America has all the cards, essentially, because America has massive military superiority. Trump always prefers a negotiated option, but if the Iranians are truly making fun of him, as it seems to be, mocking him, and not really going in good faith, but rather, portraying themselves as the victors in this war who come out in a stronger position, then those measures against Iran's energy infrastructure are certainly going to have to be looked at, and destroying is a lot easier than occupying.
Yeah. What of the status of NATO after his meeting with Secretary General Mark Rutte yesterday? Trump basically came out and restated his criticism of NATO, not necessarily Rutte, who's been a real cheerleader for the United States, but of NATO not being there when the United States wanted them there, and so not a reliable partner. And of course, there's discussions, I'm sure leaked purposely, I'm sure, suggesting Trump may make troop movements away from NATO allies that have been unhelpful and towards allies who have been helpful. Even discussion of formally pulling out of NATO. This reckoning with respect to the French and the Canadians and the British. What's your take on it?
I think it's very welcome. NATO is a venerable institution that's done a lot of good, but a lot of these countries are now seeking to reap security benefits in terms of a security blanket from Russia and other threats in the East, while mocking America and not really contributing to our defense. And if we have bases in these countries that we can't use when we need to strike a country that just tried to kill our president, then it's not clear what the point of having those bases are. Why should America send Israel is the opposite. We don't have any bases in Israel. We don't have any soldiers in Israel. We don't have any Americans committed to protecting Israel. But at the same time, they're fighting shoulder to shoulder, helping rescue downed American pilots and pulling their weight in a way that these European countries with pretensions of being great powers simply can't do anymore.
Do we have any?
It's a welcome updating.
An updating, yeah. But I mean, do you have concerns if we were to pull out of NATO and NATO would effectively collapse? Do you have concerns about Western European nations' ability to provide for their own security, and us getting dragged into the something down the road with the hostile interest to the West
right.
and Western civilization, something getting us dragged in the road because we no longer have that Three Musketeers alliance with Western Europe?
Yeah, so pulling out of NATO is obviously a much more drastic step, which I think might warrant, greater provocation. France is not a NATO member, so you can't hold their actions against NATO. But particular countries like the UK and Spain that have been particularly difficult and obstructive should certainly have American bases, American presences that contribute to their economy removed.
And now, one of the arguments that was made, going back to Russia and Ukraine, we've sort of forgotten about this at present, but is that if Russia were to seize control of Ukraine at some point, through this war of attrition, that, of course, Putin's eye is to reconstitute the motherland. This is how the argument goes.
Yep.
And so next come the Baltics, Poland, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. Is that something that would be a concern and something we would have to consider before taking any drastic action?
Yeah, so definitely, leaving NATO would leave the eastern flank of Europe extremely vulnerable to Russia, and it's not clear that they deserve that really, because Poland and the Baltics have not been the problem. It's really Western European countries with far left governments like the UK and Spain that have not been pulling their weight while sort of openly criticizing America, accusing our soldiers of war crimes, and so forth. So, for actions that are bilaterally targeted at them would make a lot of sense.
And now back to Iran. I mean, the 2 to 3 week horizon that Trump put forward in his address to the nation last week. Given low expectations for substantive outcomes from this weekend, and possibly, as you mentioned, a repositioning and then a reinitiation of hostilities, is that realistic for with the idea that substantive things have to happen before there would be a more formal withdrawal, like the reopening of the strait and some arrangement to keep it open, like obtaining the enriched uranium, including the nuclear dust from the strikes last June? If those substantive things are not accomplished, does Trump stick it out until they are?
Yeah, I think Trump is in it to win it. And this is essentially a tactical pause. The Iranians will have some time to think, whether they want to, basically cash in their cards and get away with mere survival, or double down. I'm sure they're going to double down because that's what Hamas did time after time. But Trump is not going to let them get away with keeping the nuclear dust, keeping the militias, and keeping the straits.
Eugene Kontorovich, professor at George Mason University's Scalia Law School, senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation as well. Professor Kontorovich, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Pleasure.
And he joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
If you've saved $100,000 or more for retirement, call Steve Shyman today at 833-945-7283. That's 833-WILL-SAVE. 833-WILL-SAVE. Schedule your no-cost, no-obligation retirement review and make sure your plan is built to protect what you've worked so hard to earn. And don't forget to listen to Steve's show, Protecting Your Assets, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. right here on AM 560. Call now, 833-945-7283.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results. Done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's